The fluorescent lights of Romano's bistro hummed their usual tired song at 11 p.m., casting everything in that sickly yellow glow that made even the most expensive dishes look cheap. My feet screamed inside my worn sneakers, the same pair I'd been wearing for 8 months because new ones weren't in the budget. Not when Mom's medication cost more than my rent, and certainly not when my landlord had just raised prices again. I wiped down table 7 for the 3rd time, my hands moving on autopilot. The vinegar smell of the cleaning solution stung my nostrils, mixing with the lingering scent of garlic and wine that had seeped into my black uniform until no amount of washing could get it out. Around me, the restaurant was finally emptying, the last couples finishing their overpriced desserts, their laughter sharp and careless in a way that felt like a foreign language. "Sophia, you look dead on your feet," Marcus called from the bar, polishing a wine glass with more care than I'd seen anyone give anything in months. "Go home. I'll close up." I wanted to. God, I wanted to. But I needed these hours, every single one of them. "Just let me finish my section," I replied, forcing a smile that felt like cracking plaster. That's when I noticed them. Table 12. The corner booth. The one we reserved for VIPs, though in a place like this, that usually meant anyone willing to drop $300 on a bottle of wine. They'd arrived 30 minutes ago while I was in the kitchen, and Maya had taken them, her eyes lighting up with the prospect of a good tip. But Maya was gone now, disappeared to the back with her phone pressed to her ear and tears streaking her makeup. Boyfriend drama. Again. Which meant table 12 was mine. I grabbed a water pitcher and approached, my practiced server's smile already in place, my mind already calculating the check and the potential tip. But as I got closer, my steps faltered. The woman sat facing me, and she was stunning in that effortless way that comes with money and time and genetics that don't quit. Designer dress. I recognized it from a magazine I'd flipped through at the dentist's office, something Italian and worth more than I made in 6 months. Her dark hair fell in perfect waves, and diamonds glittered at her throat, her wrists, her fingers, but it was the man beside her who made my breath catch. He sat with his back partially to me, but even from this angle, I could see the sharp cut of his suit, charcoal gray and tailored so precisely it looked painted on. His hand rested on the table, and I noticed the watch, something sleek and silver that probably cost more than a car. No, scratch that. More than a house. The scent reached me before I reached them. Expensive cologne, cedar and something darker, mixed with the woman's perfume, sweet and cloying. I filled the water glasses, my hands steady despite the exhaustion pulling at my bones. The woman didn't glance at me. Most of them never did. To people like her, servers were furniture that occasionally moved and spoke. But then I heard it. Her laugh, too loud, too bright, laced with wine and something else. Cruelty, maybe. Not like he'll ever find out. He's too busy playing king of his little empire to notice what his wife does. The man beside her chuckled, low and conspiratorial, his hand slid across the table, covering hers. I should have walked away, should have returned to the kitchen and let them finish their affair, because that's clearly what this was. In peace, but I'd always had terrible timing. As I turned, my elbow caught the edge of the water pitcher. Everything happened in slow motion and too fast all at once. The pitcher tipped. Water cascaded across the table, flooding over the pristine white tablecloth, soaking the bread basket, and, horror of all horrors, splashing directly onto the woman's lap. She shrieked, literally shrieked, her chair scraping back as she jumped up, water streaming down her designer dress. "You stupid, clumsy!" Her hand flew up, and I flinched, expecting the slap I'd received once before from another angry customer. But it never came. Enough. The word was quiet, almost soft, but it cut through the woman's rage like a blade through silk. I turned toward the sound and found myself looking at a third person I hadn't noticed, a man seated at the far end of the booth, almost hidden in the shadows. He stood now, unfolding from his seat with the kind of grace that spoke of absolute confidence, absolute control. My heart stopped. He was tall, broad-shouldered, wearing a black suit that made the other man's look like a rental, dark hair, touched with gray at the temples, strong jaw, sharp cheekbones, but it was his eyes that pinned me in place. dark, almost black, assessing me with an intensity that made my skin prickle with awareness. Behind him, I noticed 2 other men materialize from somewhere, both built like brick walls, wearing identical dark suits and expressions that promised violence. "I'm so sorry," I stammered, grabbing napkins, my hands shaking now as adrenaline dumped into my system. "I didn't mean, I'll get towels, Who is he?" the man in black asked, his voice still soft, still dangerous. I blinked. What? "Your boss. Who owns this restaurant?" "Mr. Romano. But he's not here tonight." The woman finally found her voice again, shrill with indignation. "Do you have any idea who I am? Do you know what, Isabella?" The man's eyes never left mine. "Go to the car. Lorenzo will take you home." "But Dante, now!" She went. The other man scrambled after her. One of the bodyguards followed, leaving me alone with this stranger whose name was apparently Dante, and whose presence felt like standing too close to a live wire. He pulled out his wallet, black leather, understated, and extracted several bills. Hundreds. Multiple hundreds. He placed them on the wet table with the kind of care that suggested the amount meant nothing to him. "For the inconvenience," he said. Then his eyes found mine again, holding them for a beat too long. "And for what you heard," my mouth went dry. I didn't hear anything. Something that might have been amusement flickered across his face. "You're a terrible liar. I'm a professional server," I said, finding some kernel of courage I didn't know I still possessed. "I don't hear, see, or remember anything that happens at my tables." "Smart girl." He moved past me, close enough that I caught his scent again. Cedar, leather, and something that smelled like danger and dark promises. "What's your name?" "Sophia." He paused at the edge of the booth. "Sophia," he repeated, like he was testing how it felt in his mouth. "Be more careful, Sophia. Accidents can be dangerous. It wasn't a threat. Or maybe it was. I couldn't tell." He walked away, his remaining guard following 3 steps behind, and I stood there in the middle of my section, water still dripping from the table onto the floor, my heart hammering against my ribs. I didn't know then that I'd just witnessed the beginning of my end, that the woman in the designer dress was about to destroy my life without even knowing my name, that the man in the black suit, Dante with his quiet danger and watchful eyes, would become either my salvation or my damnation. I just knew that something had shifted, like a stone had been dropped into still water, and the ripples were coming. Later, after we'd closed, after I'd mopped up the water and collected the money he'd left, $800, more than I made in 2 weeks, I walked home through streets that smelled of rain and exhaust. My apartment was 14 blocks away, too far when my feet hurt this much. But the bus didn't run this late and I couldn't afford Uber. The money burned in my pocket, $800. I could pay Mom's medication in advance, could get those sneakers, could breathe for just a moment, but something about it felt wrong, felt like payment for something I didn't understand yet. I thought about the woman, Isabella, about her laugh and her diamonds and her careless cruelty, about how she'd talked about her husband like he was an obstacle, an inconvenience. And I thought about Dante, about the way his eyes had assessed me, catalogued me, seen me in a way that made me feel simultaneously exposed and protected. My phone buzzed as I climbed the stairs to my 3rd-floor walk-up, unknown number. "Don't spend the money yet." I froze, my key halfway to the lock. How did someone have my number? How did... Another message. "Go to sleep, Sophia. Tomorrow everything changes." I should have been terrified, should have called the police, should have done anything except what I did, which was stare at those words until they blurred, then let myself into my tiny apartment and collapse onto my second-hand couch. Through my window, the city glittered with lights that belonged to other people, other lives. Lives where you didn't wear 8-month-old sneakers and count every penny and wonder if you'd ever be anything more than invisible. I fell asleep with my phone in my hand and woke to pounding on my door. The morning light was too bright, stabbing through my thin curtains with aggressive cheerfulness. My phone said 7 a.m., which meant I'd gotten maybe 4 hours of sleep. The pounding continued, urgent and demanding. "Sophia Chen?" A man's voice, official and cold. I stumbled to the door, still in yesterday's uniform, and peered through the peephole. 2 police officers. My stomach dropped somewhere around my knees. I opened the door with shaking hands, my mind racing through a dozen terrible possibilities. Mom. Something happened to Mom. Or maybe my landlord finally reported me for the noise complaint from Mrs. Chen downstairs, even though that had been months ago, and… Sophia Chen? The taller officer repeated. He had gray hair and tired eyes that had seen too much. Yes, that's me. We need you to come down to the station. There's been an incident. The word incident hung in the air like smoke. What kind of incident? I haven't done anything. We're not arresting you, the shorter officer said, younger, with a kinder face. We just need to ask you some questions about last night. About an event at Romano's Bistro. The table, the water, Isabella and her affair, and… Dante. I need to call my mom, I said, my voice sounding far away. She'll worry if I don't check in. They waited while I grabbed my phone, my keys, my purse. I texted Mom a lie about picking up an extra shift, hating myself for it, but knowing the truth would only make her panic. She had enough to worry about with her heart condition without adding police stations to the list. The ride downtown happened in a blur. They put me in an interview room, not a cell, they emphasized, just a room, with fluorescent lights that made my exhaustion feel like a physical weight pressing down on my skull. The walls were beige, scuffed, decorated with nothing except a mirror that I knew was a window on the other side. I'd watched enough crime shows to know what that meant. Detective Morris introduced himself with a handshake that was surprisingly gentle. He was maybe 50, with dark skin, graying beard, and an expression that somehow managed to be both stern and sympathetic. You're not in trouble, Miss Chen, he said, settling into the chair across from me. We just need to understand what you saw last night. I didn't see anything, I said automatically, remembering Dante's words, for what you heard. You were working table 12, is that correct? Yes, but only at the end of the night. Maya had them initially, but she had to step away, so What time did you approach the table? I tried to remember, my exhausted brain struggling to piece together the timeline. Around 11? Maybe a little after. We were closing soon. Detective Morris slid a photograph across the table. Isabella. Same perfect hair, same diamonds. But this time her face was frozen in a candid shot, unaware of the camera. Do you recognize this woman? My mouth went dry. She was at the table, the one I spilled water on. And did you hear her say anything? Anything at all about her personal life, her relationships? The temperature in the room seemed to drop 10 degrees. I don't listen to customers' private conversations. Ms. Chen, this woman was found dead this morning. The room tilted. I gripped the edge of the table, my knuckles white. What? Her name was Isabella Castellano, wife of Dante Castellano, who I'm sure you've heard of, even if you don't follow the news closely. I hadn't. But the way Detective Morris said the name, the weight he gave it, told me everything I needed to know. She was killed in her home sometime between midnight and 3 a.m. Professional hit. Very clean, very efficient. And according to our investigation, she was having an affair. My stomach churned. I don't know anything about that. You were there, Ms. Chen. You heard them talking. Table 12. Isabella Castellano and Marco De Luca. He slid another photo across, the man who'd been sitting beside her. What did you hear? I thought about the $800 in my purse, about the text messages, about Dante's eyes as he'd told me accidents could be dangerous. I heard her laugh, I said carefully, and something about someone not finding out. But I was busy cleaning, Detective. I wasn't paying attention. He studied me for a long moment. Dante Castellano runs one of the largest organized crime families in the city. Has for 15 years. He's dangerous, Ms. Chen. Very dangerous. If he thinks you know something, I don't know anything. My voice came out sharper than I intended. I'm a waitress. I spilled water on a woman. Her husband paid me to forget about it. That's all. He paid you? How much? I hesitated. $800. Detective Morris's eyebrows rose. That's a lot of money for spilling water. He's rich. I wrapped my arms around myself, suddenly cold despite the stuffy room. Maybe he tips big. Or maybe he's buying your silence. Silence about what? A affair I barely noticed? I have 10 tables a night, detective. I don't have the energy to memorize everyone's drama. He leaned back in his chair, watching me with those tired, knowing eyes. Here's what I think happened, Ms. Chen. I think you overheard Isabella Castellano confessing to her affair. I think her husband was there, in the shadows, listening. I think he's known for a while. Men like Dante Castellano always know. But hearing her say it, hearing her laugh about him, he let the sentence hang. You think he killed her because of what I heard? My voice cracked. That's insane. I wouldn't. I think he killed her because she betrayed him. The affair with Marco De Luca, the disrespect, the fact that she was stupid enough to conduct it in public. Detective Morris tapped the table. But you're a witness. You heard the confession. You saw them together. That makes you either very valuable or very dangerous, depending on who's asking. I want to go home. We'll have an officer drive you. But Ms. Chen, I need you to understand something. He leaned forward, his voice dropping. Dante Castellano is not a man you want noticing you. Stay away from him. If he contacts you, you call me immediately. Understand? I nodded, not trusting my voice. They drove me home in a marked car, which I knew would make the neighbors talk, which meant my landlord would hear about it, which meant another thing I'd have to explain. The officers walked me to my door, checked my apartment like they expected someone to be hiding in my closet, and left me with a card and a warning. I locked the door behind them and slid down to the floor, my back against the wood, my heart hammering. Isabella Castellano was dead. The woman whose lap I'd soaked with water, whose affair I'd accidentally witnessed, whose husband had paid me $800 to forget what I'd heard. Dead. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. Same one from last night. I stared at it for 5 long seconds before opening the message. Check your mailbox. My blood turned to ice water. I shouldn't go. I should call Detective Morris right now. Should tell him about the texts, the strange messages, the fact that someone was clearly watching me. Instead, I found myself walking down the 3 flights of stairs on legs that felt like water. My heart in my throat. The morning was bright and cold, the kind of November day that promised winter wasn't far behind. A few neighbors were out, walking dogs, heading to work, living their normal lives. My mailbox was one of a dozen built into the wall of the building's entry. I fumbled with my key, dropped it once, finally got it open. Inside was a single black envelope. Heavy paper. Expensive. The kind you used for wedding invitations or funeral announcements. My hands shook as I opened it. Inside was a credit card, all black, no numbers visible on the front, just a name embossed in silver. Sophia Chen. And a note, handwritten in sharp, elegant script, for your trouble. Use it wisely. Someone will be in touch. No signature, no explanation. I turned the card over. On the back, a phone number was written in the same handwriting. I should have thrown it away. Should have taken it straight to the police. Should have done literally anything except what I did, which was stand there in my building's entryway, holding a credit card that probably had no limit, from a man who just lost his wife under suspicious circumstances, a man who was apparently a crime lord, a man whose eyes I couldn't stop seeing every time I closed my own. Sophia? I jumped, nearly dropping the card. Mrs. Chen from downstairs stood in her doorway, her ancient pug wheezing at her feet. You okay, honey? Saw the police this morning. I'm fine, I lied, shoving the card and envelope into my pocket. Just some questions about work, nothing serious. She didn't look convinced, but she nodded, shuffling back inside with her dog. I took the stairs 2 at a time, my breath coming fast and shallow. Inside my apartment, I locked the door, checked the windows, pulled the curtains closed. The card sat on my kitchen counter, gleaming black against the chipped laminate. I should call Detective Morris. Instead, I picked up my phone and dialed the number from last night. The one that had warned me. The one that had known my name, my number, my future. It rang once. Miss Chen. A man's voice, smooth and professional. Not Dante. I trust you received the gift. Who are you? My name is Vincent. I work for Mr. Castellano. He wants to meet with you. I already met him. Last night. He wants to meet with you properly. Tonight, 8 p.m. A car will pick you up. I'm not going anywhere with... It's not a request, Miss Chen. You have something Mr. Castellano needs. Information, and he's willing to compensate you generously for your cooperation. I don't know anything. I told the police. The police? Vincent's voice cooled several degrees. Yes, we're aware of your conversation with Detective Morris, which is precisely why Mr. Castellano needs to speak with you. To ensure we understand each other clearly. My heart hammered against my ribs. Is that a threat? It's an invitation. One you'd be wise to accept. Mr. Castellano is not accustomed to being refused. The line went dead. I stood in my kitchen, surrounded by the evidence of my poverty, the second-hand furniture, the empty fridge I couldn't afford to fill properly, the bills stacked on the counter marked with red final notice stamps, and tried to remember how to breathe. 8 p.m. A car. A meeting with a man who ran a crime family. A man whose wife had died hours after I'd spilled water on her lap. I looked at the black card again, picked it up. The weight of it felt wrong, felt like a chain disguised as a gift. My phone rang. Mom. I answered, forcing cheerfulness into my voice. Hey, Mom. Sophia, sweetheart, I know you said you picked up an extra shift, but I'm worried. You sound tired. I'm okay. Just a long night. You're working too hard, baby. You need to take care of yourself. I closed my eyes against the burn of tears. Take care of myself. With what money? With what time? With what energy? I know, Mom. I will, I promise. We talked for a few more minutes, her telling me about her book club, her neighbor's cat, the weather. Normal things that felt like they belonged to a different universe than the one I was currently trapped in. When we hung up, I looked at the clock. 11 a.m. 9 hours until the car came. 9 hours to decide what kind of person I was going to be. The kind who went to the police, told them everything, and hoped the system would protect her from a crime lord's retribution, or the kind who got in the car, met with the devil in a designer suit, and tried to survive whatever came next. I thought about Mom's medication, about my overdue rent, about the sneakers with holes I'd been ignoring for months. I thought about Isabella's laugh, careless and cruel. About Dante's eyes, dark and assessing. About the way power moved around him like gravity, pulling everything into his orbit. And I thought about Detective Morris's warning. Dante Castellano is not a man you want noticing you. Too late for that. He'd noticed. And somehow, between spilling water and accepting $800, I'd become tangled in something that was going to either destroy me or change everything. I picked up the black card one more time, testing its weight, its promise, its danger. 8 p.m. The choice was already made. I'd made it the moment I opened that envelope. I just didn't know yet what it would cost me. The day crawled by with the speed of continental drift. I tried to sleep and couldn't. Tried to eat and my stomach rebelled. Tried to convince myself to call Detective Morris, to tell him about the card, the messages, the invitation that wasn't really an invitation. I didn't. Instead, I spent 3 hours researching Dante Castellano on my phone, hunched over my tiny kitchen table with cold coffee I couldn't taste. The information was sparse but damning. Inherited his father's empire at 25 after the old man died. Natural causes, the articles claimed, though the quotation marks around those words suggested otherwise. Expanded the family business into legitimate enterprises. Real estate, restaurants, import-export. A whole web of companies with Italian names and offshore accounts. But underneath the legitimate veneer were the whispers, the rumors, the charges that never quite stuck. Racketeering, money laundering, murder for hire. Witnesses who disappeared before trials, evidence that vanished from police lockups. And through it all, photos of Dante at charity galas, shaking hands with politicians, cutting ribbons at new business openings. Always in those impeccable suits, always with that expression of controlled power, always surrounded by men in dark suits who watched everything with dead eyes. In every photo, he was alone. No wife on his arm, despite 15 years of marriage to Isabella. No public displays of affection, no candid moments of domesticity. just a man who ruled his kingdom from the shadows and crushed anyone who threatened it. I found one article from 3 years ago, a puff piece in a business magazine about his real estate ventures. The photo showed him in his office, all dark wood and leather and floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. He wasn't smiling, but there was something in his eyes that the camera had caught, something that looked almost like loneliness. I closed my phone before I could follow that thought any further. At 6 p.m., I showered, letting water as hot as I could stand it beat against my shoulders until my skin turned pink. I washed my hair twice, scrubbed myself until I felt raw and clean and almost human. Then I stood in front of my closet, 6 hangers of clothes, most from thrift stores, and tried to figure out what you wore to meet a crime lord. I settled on the only dress I owned that wasn't my work uniform. Black, simple, hitting just above my knees. I'd bought it 2 years ago for a job interview that never panned out. It was a little loose now. I'd lost weight I couldn't afford to lose. But it was clean and professional, and didn't scream terrified waitress in over her head. I left my hair down, applied minimal makeup with hands that shook. No jewelry except the small gold studs Mom had given me for my 18th birthday. In the mirror, I looked pale, scared, young. 24, but feeling about 16. The black card sat on my counter where I'd left it. I picked it up, slid it into my purse alongside my driver's license, my phone, my keys, and the pepper spray I'd bought after a guy followed me home from work 6 months ago. Like pepper spray would help against men who made people disappear. At 7:55 p.m., my phone buzzed. The car is outside. I looked out my window. A black SUV sat at the curb, tinted windows reflecting the streetlights. As I watched, a man in a dark suit emerged from the driver's side, his eyes scanning the street with professional efficiency. This was it. The moment where I could still choose differently. Could stay in my apartment, call the police, let the system try to protect me. I thought about Mom's medication running out in 3 days, about the eviction notice I'd received yesterday and shoved in a drawer because I couldn't deal with one more crisis. About the way Isabella had laughed, careless and cruel, because money insulated her from consequences, until it didn't. I grabbed my coat and walked down the stairs before I could change my mind. The driver opened the door as I approached. He was maybe 40, built like he ate nails for breakfast, with a scar bisecting his left eyebrow. Miss Chen. Not a question, a confirmation. I slid into the back seat. The interior smelled like leather, and that same cedar scent I remembered from Dante. The windows were so darkly tinted I could barely see out. The driver got in without another word. We pulled away from the curb smoothly, merging into evening traffic. "Where are we going?" I asked, hating how small my voice sounded. Mr. Castellano's home, of course. Not a restaurant or an office. His home, where Isabella had died just hours ago. The thought made my skin crawl. We drove for 30 minutes, leaving the familiar streets of my neighborhood and heading into areas I'd only seen in magazines. The buildings grew taller, more elegant. The cars on the street cost more than I'd make in a decade. Even the sidewalks looked cleaner, like poverty wasn't allowed to touch them. Finally, we turned into a driveway guarded by a gate that probably cost more than my apartment building. The driver entered a code. The gate swung open silently. The house beyond wasn't a house. It was an estate. 3 stories of pale stone and dark windows, lit from below by subtle landscape lighting that made it look like something from a Gothic novel. Manicured lawns stretched in every direction, and I could see the glimmer of a pool in the back. This was where Isabella had lived, had died. The driver parked near the front entrance, where wide stone steps led to double doors that looked like they belonged on a castle. Another man in a suit waited there. Vincent, I assumed. Older than the driver, maybe 50, with silver hair and the bearing of someone who'd spent a lifetime managing dangerous people. "Miss Chen," he greeted me as I climbed out. His voice matched the one from the phone. "Thank you for coming. Did I have a choice?" A flicker of something, amusement, respect, crossed his face. "There's always a choice, Miss Chen. You made yours when you kept the card." He led me inside, and I tried not to gape like a tourist. The entry hall was all marble and crystal, with a staircase that curved up to the second floor. Artwork hung on the walls, real artwork. the kind you saw in museums. Everything was cream and gold and whisper quiet wealth. "Mr. Castellano is in his study," Vincent said, guiding me down a hallway lined with more artwork. "He's looking forward to speaking with you." Looking forward. Like this was a social call, like his wife hadn't been murdered this morning. Vincent stopped at a heavy wooden door, knocked twice, then opened it without waiting for a response. The study was exactly like the photo I'd seen online. Dark wood, leather furniture, floor-to-ceiling windows showing the city lights sprawled below like captured stars. A massive desk dominated one end of the room, and behind it, Dante Castellano stood with his back to us, hands in his pockets, staring out at the view. He wore black again, seemed to be his signature. Even from behind, he radiated that same controlled power, that sense of being the most dangerous thing in any room. "Miss Chen, sir," Vincent announced, then withdrew, closing the door with a soft click, leaving me alone with him. For a long moment, neither of us moved. I could hear my heartbeat in my ears, could feel the weight of the silence pressing down. Then he turned. Those eyes found mine immediately, dark and assessing. In the soft lighting of the study, I could see more details. The fine lines at the corners of his eyes, the shadow of stubble along his jaw, the way his shoulders filled out his suit with the kind of build that came from discipline, not a gym membership. "Sophia," he said, and somehow my name sounded different in his mouth, more substantial. "Thank you for coming. You didn't give me much choice." Vincent can be persuasive. He moved toward a bar cart near the windows. "Drink?" "No, thank you." He poured himself something amber, whiskey, probably, and took a measured sip. The silence stretched again, and I realized he was waiting for me to break it. A test, maybe. Or just the confidence of a man who never had to fill empty air. I refused to squirm, refused to look away. Finally, he spoke. "You spoke with Detective Morris this morning. He said your wife was murdered. My wife was executed." His voice remained calm, matter of fact. "There's a difference. One implies passion, surprise. The other implies judgment." The temperature in the room seemed to drop. "Did you kill her?" He took another sip of whiskey. "No, I don't kill my own betrayals, Sophia. I have people for that." I couldn't tell if he was joking. The thought that he might not be made my stomach turn. "But you knew," I said, "about the affair. You were there last night." "I've known for 6 months. Isabella was never subtle." He moved to stand behind his desk, creating a barrier between us. "The affair with Marco DeLuca was simply the most recent. There were others before him. Then why stay married? Why tolerate it?" His smile was cold. "Because marriage, in my world, is a business arrangement." Isabella understood this. She came from the Moretti family, brought connections, legitimacy. What she did with her time was her concern, as long as she remained discreet. She wasn't discreet last night. No. His eyes pinned me. She wasn't. Which brings us to you, Sophia Chen, 24 years old, waitress at Romano's Bistro for 3 years. Mother with a heart condition requiring expensive medication. Rent 3 months overdue. Student loans you'll never pay off. My breath caught. "How do you—" "I know everything about everyone who enters my life," he interrupted smoothly. "It's how I've survived this long. And you, Sophia, have entered my life at a very inconvenient moment. I didn't ask to." "No, you didn't. You spilled water. A simple accident. But accidents have consequences." He set down his glass with a soft clink. "You heard my wife confess to an affair. You saw her with her lover. And hours later, she was killed. The police believe I'm responsible, though they can't prove it. They also believe you're a witness, which makes you either valuable or dangerous." "I don't know anything," I said, the words automatic now. "You know she was having an affair. You know she spoke carelessly. You know I was there, in the shadows, listening." He leaned forward slightly, his hands flat on the desk. "The question is, what will you do with that knowledge?" "I'll forget it. Just like you paid me to. $800 isn't enough to buy permanent silence. Then how much is?" The question hung between us, sharp and dangerous. Dante studied me for a long moment, his expression unreadable. Then he reached into his desk drawer, and pulled out a folder. He slid it across the polished surface toward me. "Come here." I moved forward on legs that felt disconnected from my body. Opened the folder. Inside were documents, medical bills, Mom's bills, with her name and diagnosis and the crushing totals that kept me up at night. My rent statements marked overdue, my student loan summary showing a balance that would take 20 years to repay, and beneath all of that, a single sheet of paper, a check made out to me. Blank amount line, just waiting for a number. "I don't understand," I whispered. "I'm offering you a choice," Dante said, his voice low and compelling. "Option 1. You take that check, fill in any amount you want, and walk away. Your mother's medical bills will be paid. Your debts will disappear. You'll never have to worry about money again. And in exchange, you forget what you heard. You tell the police nothing. You disappear from this situation entirely." It was everything I'd ever needed, more than I'd dared to dream. Freedom from the crushing weight of poverty, from the constant fear and stress and exhaustion. "What's option 2? I asked, even though I should have just taken the check and run. Dante's eyes darkened. "Option 2 is more complicated. And more dangerous. Tell me anyway." He moved around the desk, closing the distance between us. I could smell his cologne again, cedar and danger. He was close enough that I had to tilt my head back to maintain eye contact. "Option 2, he said softly, "is that you stay. You work for me. I need someone the police trust, someone who appears innocent and uninvolved. Someone who can move through certain circles without attracting attention. You want me to spy for you. I want you to be my eyes and ears in places I can't go. In exchange, I'll give you everything option 1 offers, plus protection, safety, a place in my world." "Your world where people get executed for betrayal?" His hand came up, not threatening, just there. His fingers touched my chin, tilting my face up slightly. "My world where loyalty is rewarded beyond measure, where those under my protection are untouchable." I should have pulled away, should have grabbed the check and run for the door. Instead, I stood frozen, caught in those dark eyes, feeling the heat of his hand against my skin. "Why me?" I whispered. "Because you're invisible, Sophia. People like you move through the world unnoticed. You see everything and no one suspects you're looking, because you're smart enough to survive, desperate enough to be useful, and honest enough that I believe you when you say you'll keep your word. I haven't given you my word. Not yet." His thumb brushed along my jaw, feather-light. "But you will." He was right. God help me, he was right. Because standing in his study, surrounded by evidence of his power and his ruthlessness and his absolute control, I realized something terrible. I didn't want to disappear back into my invisible life. Didn't want to return to the crushing poverty and endless exhaustion. Didn't want to spend the rest of my existence being overlooked and underestimated. I wanted what he was offering, the danger and the protection, the money and the power. I wanted to be seen. "If I agree," I said, my voice steadier than I felt. "What happens next?" Dante's smile was slow, dangerous, satisfied. "Next, we make sure you survive what's coming, because Isabella's family won't rest until someone pays for her death. And Marco De Luca has powerful friends who'll want revenge for his disappearance." "His disappearance?" "He left the restaurant with Isabella last night. No one's seen him since." Dante's hand dropped from my face, but the warmth lingered. "The Moretti family believes I killed them both. They're wrong about Isabella. I didn't give that order. But Marco..." He shrugged. "Marco made his choice when he touched what belonged to me. The casual admission should have terrified me. Instead, I felt something else. Something dark and electric that I didn't want to examine too closely. So you need me to help you find out who actually killed Isabella. I need you to be exactly who you are, an innocent witness who knows nothing, while secretly helping me identify the traitor in my organization who thought they could frame me for my own wife's murder." It was insane, suicidal, everything my rational brain screamed at me to refuse. I thought about Detective Morris's warning, about my mother's medication, about the black card in my purse and the check on the desk, about the way Dante was looking at me, like I was a puzzle he wanted to solve. "I'll need guarantees," I heard myself say. "Protection. Written agreements about my mother's care. Done. And I can walk away whenever I want." His eyes darkened. "We both know that's not true, Sophia. Once you're in my world, walking away becomes complicated. Then I need to know you'll keep me safe." He stepped closer again, close enough that I could feel the heat radiating from his body. "I will protect what's mine, and if you agree to this, you become mine to protect." The possessiveness in his voice should have sent me running. Instead, it sent a shiver down my spine that had nothing to do with fear. "Okay," I whispered. "Okay, I'll do it." For the first time since I'd met him, Dante smiled. Really smiled. It transformed his face, made him look younger, almost human. Almost. "Then welcome to the family, Sophia." He extended his hand. "Try not to get killed." I took his hand. His grip was firm, warm, commanding, and with that handshake I sealed my fate. Dante kept my hand in his for a beat longer than necessary, his thumb brushing across my knuckles in a gesture that felt both protective and possessive. Then he released me and moved back to his desk, all business again, the momentary warmth vanishing like it had never existed. "Vincent," he called, not raising his voice. The door opened immediately. Had he been standing there the entire time, listening? The thought made my skin prickle. "Miss Chen has agreed to assist us," Dante said, his tone crisp and professional. "Prepare the East Wing guest suite. She'll be staying here for the time being." "Wait, what?" I turned to face him. "I never agreed to move in. Your apartment is being watched by the police. Probably also by the Moretti family, since they'll want to question you about Isabella, and possibly by whoever actually killed my wife." Dante's expression remained impassive. "You'll be safer here, where I can control who has access to you. I have to work. I have responsibilities. You quit your job an hour ago. Vincent called Romano's on your behalf. Personal emergency. Family illness. They understood." Anger flared hot in my chest. "You had no right." "I had every right the moment you shook my hand." His voice remained calm, but there was steel underneath. "This isn't a game, Sophia. People are going to come looking for you, asking questions, applying pressure. If you're going to survive this, you need to be where I can protect you. Where I can control the narrative. Control me, you mean? If that's what it takes." He picked up his whiskey glass, studied the amber liquid. "You're free to leave, of course. Take the check. Walk out that door. But the moment you do, you're on your own. And I promise you, the Morettis are far less patient than I am." He was right. I hated that he was right. But the rational part of my brain, the part that had kept me alive through 3 years of poverty and exhaustion, knew that going home now would be suicide. "My mother," I said quietly. "She'll worry if I don't come home. Vincent will arrange for her care. Round-the-clock nursing, the best doctors, a comfortable facility with everything she needs." Dante's eyes met mine. "She'll be told you've taken a private nursing position that requires you to live on site. It's not far from the truth. And what am I exactly? Your nurse?" Something dangerous flickered in his expression. "You're under my protection. What that means depends entirely on how useful you prove to be." Vincent cleared his throat softly. "Sir, Detective Morris is requesting another meeting with Miss Chen tomorrow morning. He's been quite persistent." "Good." Dante set down his glass. "Tell him Miss Chen is happy to cooperate. Schedule it for 10 a.m. at the precinct. I want her wired." My blood ran cold. "Wired? You want me to record the police? I want to know what they know, what they suspect, what leverage they think they have." He moved toward me again, and I fought the urge to step back. "You're going to tell Detective Morris exactly what he wants to hear. You're a frightened witness who saw nothing, knows nothing, and just wants to go back to her normal life. You'll be convincing because it's mostly true. And the wire? Insurance. So I know you're not actually working with them against me." The implication stung. "You don't trust me." "I don't trust anyone, Sophia. It's why I'm still alive." His hand came up to my face again, this time cupping my cheek with surprising gentleness. "But I want to trust you. Show me I can. The touch sent heat through my body, unwanted and undeniable. I pulled back, needing distance, needing to think clearly. What happens after the meeting? After Vincent will bring you back here. We'll review what the detective said, identify any threats, and plan our next move. Dante's hand dropped. In the meantime, you'll stay in the East Wing. It's comfortable, private. You'll have everything you need, except freedom. Freedom is overrated. His smile was sharp. Safety, on the other hand, is priceless. Vincent led me through the mansion, up the curved staircase, and down a long hallway lined with more artwork and antiques that probably cost more than my entire neighborhood. The East Wing was separate from the main house, connected by a glass walkway that overlooked the gardens below. Mr. Castellano values his privacy, Vincent explained as we walked. The East Wing is used for trusted guests. You'll have your own suite, bathroom, small sitting room. Meals can be delivered, or you're welcome to use the main kitchen. Am I allowed to leave? Vincent's expression remained neutral. You're not a prisoner, Miss Chen, but I would advise against wandering the grounds alone, especially at night. Security can be overzealous with strangers. Translation: leave without permission and get shot. The suite was bigger than my entire apartment. Cream walls, plush carpeting, a 4-poster bed that looked like something from a movie. French doors led to a private balcony overlooking the city. The bathroom had heated floors and a shower with 6 different heads. Your belongings are being collected from your apartment as we speak, Vincent said. They'll arrive within the hour. If you need anything else, there's an intercom by the bed. Press 3 and you'll reach the main house. He left me alone, closing the door with a soft click. I stood in the middle of the room, my heart racing, my mind spinning. What had I done? 24 hours ago, I was a waitress worrying about rent. Now I was living in a crime lord's mansion, preparing to wear a wire to a police interview, tangled in a murder I didn't commit, but couldn't escape. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. Again. Sleep well, Sophia. Tomorrow changes everything. Dante. Had to be. The man who now controlled my life, my safety, my future. I wanted to throw the phone across the room. Instead, I set it carefully on the nightstand and walked to the French doors. The city spread below like a carpet of lights, beautiful and cold, and full of people living their ordinary lives. People who didn't know the darkness that moved beneath the surface. The deals made in shadows, the lives bought and sold, the casual violence that kept empires running. I pressed my forehead against the cool glass and tried not to think about how easy it had been to say yes. How little resistance I'd put up before agreeing to enter Dante's world. How part of me, a part I didn't want to acknowledge, had been waiting for someone like him to see me, to value me, to make me matter. Even if mattering meant becoming complicit in things I'd spent my life trying to avoid. A soft knock interrupted my thoughts. I opened the door to find a young woman holding several shopping bags, designer labels visible even from a distance. Mr. Castellano thought you might need some things, she said shyly. Italian accent, maybe early 20s. Clothes, toiletries. He had me guess your size. Thank you, but please. She pressed the bags into my hands. He'll be angry if you refuse, and trust me, you don't want that. She disappeared before I could respond. I set the bags on the bed and opened them one by one. Designer clothes, all in my size. How had he known? Including underwear that probably cost more than my weekly grocery budget. Expensive skincare products, makeup, perfume. Everything carefully chosen, perfectly coordinated. Everything designed to transform me from invisible waitress into something else. Someone else. Someone who belonged in his world. I should have been furious at the presumption, the control. Instead, I found myself holding up a black dress, silk probably, judging by the weight, and wondering what I'd look like wearing it. Wondering what Dante would think when he saw me in it. I shoved the thought away and focused on unpacking. My own clothes arrived an hour later, looking shabby and worn next to the designer pieces. I hung them in the massive closet anyway, needing something familiar, something that remembered who I used to be. Sleep didn't come easy. I lay in the enormous bed, surrounded by luxury I'd never imagined, and thought about Mom. Was she okay? Did she believe the story about the nursing position? Would she be safe? Would any of us be safe when this was over? Sometime after midnight, I heard voices outside. I crept to the French doors and peered out. Below, in the gardens, Dante stood with 3 men I didn't recognize. The conversation looked intense, hands gesturing sharply, bodies tense. One of the men pulled out his phone, showed Dante something. Even from this distance, I could see Dante's expression darken. He looked up suddenly, his gaze finding my window with unerring accuracy. Even in the darkness, even at this distance, I felt the weight of his attention. He said something to the men, then walked toward the house, disappearing from view. My heart hammered as I scrambled back to bed, pulling the covers up like a child hiding from monsters. But the monster didn't come. The mansion remained silent. Eventually, exhaustion dragged me under. I woke to sunrise painting the room gold, and Vincent knocking on my door. "Miss Chen, breakfast in 30 minutes. Then we prepare for your meeting with Detective Morris." The wire was smaller than I expected. A tiny microphone that attached beneath my bra strap, nearly invisible under clothing. A recording device the size of a credit card tucked into the lining of my purse. "The detective will likely sweep you for recording devices," Vincent explained, showing me how everything worked. "These are high-grade, nearly undetectable, but if he finds them, we have plausible deniability. You can claim you were recording for your own protection. And if he doesn't believe me, then you'll have bigger problems than a wire." Vincent's expression remained neutral. "Mr. Castellano will be listening in real time. If things go wrong, if you're in danger, say the word medication, and we'll extract you immediately." "Extract me? From a police station?" "Mr. Castellano has resources you can't imagine, Miss Chen. Trust that he'll protect his investments." His investments, not his allies, not his friends, his property. The ride to the precinct happened in tense silence. I wore one of the designer outfits, dark jeans, a cream blouse, a leather jacket that probably cost more than my car. I looked put together, professional, like someone who had their life under control, like someone who wasn't about to lie to the police while wearing a wire for a crime boss. Detective Morris met me in the same interview room as yesterday. He looked more tired, if that was possible, with dark circles under his eyes and coffee stains on his shirt. "Thank you for coming in, Miss Chen." He gestured to the chair across from him. "I know this must be difficult. I just want to help however I can." My voice came out steady, convincing. "Isabella seemed like a nice woman. What happened to her is terrible." He studied me for a long moment. "You're wearing different clothes today. Nice ones." My heart skipped. Yes. A friend loaned them to me. My work uniform was dirty. Friends in high places? Just friends who are more successful than I am. I forced a small laugh. Not hard to do when you're a waitress. He didn't smile. "Where were you last night, Miss Chen?" "Home. I was exhausted after everything yesterday." "Why?" "Because Marco De Luca's body was found this morning, dumped in the harbor, execution style, single bullet to the back of the head." His eyes never left my face. "You were the last person to see him and Isabella Castellano alive, besides whoever killed them." The room tilted. I gripped the edge of the table. I don't know anything about that. You're in danger, Miss Chen. You witnessed something that got 2 people killed. Whoever did this might think you know more than you do. They might decide you're a liability. Then what am I supposed to do?" My voice cracked. Genuine fear bleeding through. "Hide? Run? I can't afford to run, detective. I can barely afford rent. I can offer you protection, witness protection, if necessary. But you have to be completely honest with me." He leaned forward. "Did Dante Castellano contact you after you left here yesterday? Remember your training," Vincent had said. "Tell the truth whenever possible. It makes the lies more believable." "Yes," I admitted. "He sent someone to pick me up. Wanted to make sure I understood that I shouldn't talk about what I heard at the restaurant." "Did he threaten you?" "Not exactly. More like, offered me money to keep quiet. Not a lie. He gave me a credit card, said to use it wisely." Detective Morris's jaw tightened. "Do you still have it?" I pulled the black card from my purse, slid it across the table. "I didn't use it. Didn't feel right. Taking money from him after everything. Also, not a lie. I hadn't used it. Yet. He examined the card, photographed it, then returned it. Miss Chen, Dante Castellano is not your friend. He's a killer, a criminal, a man who destroys lives without hesitation. If he's showing interest in you, it's because he wants something, and when he's done with you, you'll disappear just like everyone else who's gotten too close. I know that. I met his eyes. Let him see my fear. That's why I'm here. That's why I'm telling you everything. I just want to go back to my normal life. I'm not sure that's possible anymore. His voice softened slightly, but I'll do everything I can to keep you safe. Just promise me you'll be careful. And if Castellano contacts you again, you call me immediately. Understand? I understand. He gave me his card. Again. And reminded me to be careful. Again. And sent me back out into the world carrying secrets that could get me killed. Vincent was waiting in the car, his expression carefully neutral as I slid into the back seat. Well done, Miss Chen, he said as we pulled away. Mr. Castellano will be pleased. Marco De Luca is dead, I said numbly. Shot in the head and dumped in the harbor. Yes, unfortunate, but necessary. Necessary? I turned to stare at him. He was murdered. He betrayed Mr. Castellano, slept with his wife, helped arrange whatever plan got her killed. Vincent's voice remained calm, matter of fact. In our world, such betrayals have only one consequence. And Isabella? Was her death necessary too? Isabella's death was a message. Someone wanted to frame Mr. Castellano, to start a war between families. They used his wife to do it. He glanced at me in the rearview mirror. Which means you, Miss Chen, are now bait. Whoever killed Isabella will come for you next, to tie up loose ends, and when they do, we'll be ready. The words hung in the air like poison. I was bait, a lure to draw out a killer. Dante had known this from the start, had planned it, and I'd agreed because I was desperate and stupid and dazzled by his power. I want out, I whispered. It's too late for that. Vincent's expression remained neutral. You're in the game now, Miss Chen. Best thing you can do is learn the rules and try to survive. We drove back to the mansion in silence. My hands shook in my lap. The wire beneath my clothes felt like it was burning into my skin. Dante was waiting in his study when Vincent brought me in. He stood by the windows again, hands in his pockets, the sun backlighting him like some dark angel. You did well, he said without turning around. The detective suspects nothing. Marco De Luca is dead. Yes. Did you kill him? He turned then, his expression unreadable. Does it matter? Yes, it matters. I moved further into the room, anger overriding fear. You used me. Made me bait without telling me. Put me in danger without warning me. I told you this would be dangerous. His voice remained calm. I told you people were going to come looking for you. Did you think I meant for tea and conversation? You could have been honest. Honest? He laughed, sharp and bitter. There's no honesty in my world, Sophia. There's only survival. And right now, you're surviving because you're useful to me. Don't forget that. The words hit like a slap. I'd known, of course, had known from the start that I was just a tool, a pawn in whatever game he was playing. But hearing him say it so bluntly still hurt. Then let me go, I said quietly. Let me take the money and disappear. You don't need me. I do need you. He crossed the distance between us in 3 strides, his hands gripping my shoulders, because whoever killed Isabella is still out there, still planning, and they're going to come for you, Sophia, whether you're here or in your apartment or on the other side of the country. At least here, I can keep you alive. Why do you even care? You're mine. The possessiveness in his voice was undeniable. I claimed you the moment I paid you in that restaurant. I protected you when I could have silenced you. And I'll be damned if I let some traitor take what belongs to me. His hands softened on my shoulders, his thumbs brushing against my collarbone. The touch sent electricity through me, wanted and terrifying in equal measure. I'm not a possession, I whispered. In my world, everything is a possession. Power, money, loyalty, lives. His eyes held mine, dark and consuming, The question is, are you strong enough to be mine, or will you break like everyone else? I should have said no. Should have walked away, consequences be damned. Instead, I lifted my chin and met his gaze. I won't break. His smile was slow, dangerous, approving. Good. Because tomorrow we're going to a funeral, Isabella's funeral, and you're going to help me identify the traitor who thinks they can destroy me. A funeral? Are you insane? Probably. He released me, stepped back. But I'm also right. Killers always come to their victims' funerals. They can't resist. And when they see you there, alive and under my protection, they'll make a mistake. And if I die in the crossfire, then I'll make sure they die slower. His expression was deadly serious. But that won't happen, Sophia, because I protect what's mine, always. The funeral was held at St. Michael's Cathedral, a Gothic monster of stone and stained glass that had stood for over a century. Rain fell in sheets, turning the steps slick, and the mourners' black umbrellas into a sea of darkness. I stood beside Dante, wearing a black dress he'd provided. Appropriate, expensive, covering. His hand rested on the small of my back, possessive and protective. To anyone watching, we looked like a couple, a united front. The reality was far more complicated. The Moretti family is here, Vincent murmured from Dante's other side. Isabella's father, 3 brothers, extended family. They're watching you. I could feel their eyes like lasers, hostile, assessing, wondering who I was and why Dante Castellano had brought a stranger to his wife's funeral. Let them watch, Dante said quietly, his hand pressed more firmly against my back. Stay close to me. Don't speak to anyone unless I tell you to. Inside, the cathedral was packed. Hundreds of people, all dressed in black, all wearing carefully neutral expressions. This wasn't grief. This was politics. A showing of power, of alliances, of who stood where in the complex hierarchy of organized crime. Isabella's casket sat at the front, draped in white roses. Her photo, beautiful, smiling, alive, stood beside it on an easel. I thought about her laugh at the restaurant, her careless cruelty, her diamonds and her affair, and her complete certainty that consequences were for other people. She'd been wrong. We sat near the front, in a pew that had clearly been reserved for Dante. More eyes followed us. More whispers rippled through the crowd. The service was in Italian, which I didn't understand, but I watched the faces around us, cataloging reactions like Vincent had taught me. Who cried? Who didn't? Who kept glancing at Dante with calculation in their eyes? An older man sat across the aisle. Isabella's father, I assumed. Silver hair, strong features hardened by decades of violence. He stared at Dante with undisguised hatred. Antonio Moretti, Dante murmured, following my gaze. Isabella's father. He blames me for her death. Did you? No. His voice was flat, final. But he doesn't believe that. After the service, we moved to the cemetery. The rain had softened to a drizzle, and the crowd gathered around the gravesite like ravens. That's when I saw him, a man standing apart from the main group, younger than most, maybe 35. Dark suit, unremarkable face, but there was something about the way he watched the proceedings, too focused, too intent. I touched Dante's arm, subtle. 10 o'clock. Dark hair, standing alone. His eyes flicked that direction, barely a glance. Luca Martinelli. Works for the Genovese family. What about him? He's not watching the casket. He's watching the crowd, like he's looking for someone. Dante's expression didn't change, but I felt his body tense beside me. Vincent, confirm Luca Martinelli's presence and find out what business he has here. Vincent melted into the crowd without a word. The burial concluded with the priest's final blessing. As people began to disperse, Antonio Moretti approached. His sons flanked him. 3 large men with their father's cold eyes. Dante. Antonio's voice was rough, accented. You have the nerve to come here, to bring your whore to my daughter's funeral. I flinched, but Dante's hand tightened on my back, keeping me still. Antonio, my condolences on your loss. Dante's tone was respectful but firm. Isabella was my wife. I had every right to be here. Your wife. Antonio spat the words. You neglected her, humiliated her, drove her into another man's arms, and then you killed her for it. I didn't kill Isabella. Someone wanted me to believe I should have. Someone wanted to start a war between our families. Dante's eyes hardened. The question is, who benefits from that war? You speak in riddles while my daughter lies in the ground. Your daughter was having an affair with Marco De Luca, Dante interrupted, his voice cutting. Did you know? Did you approve? Because Marco had connections to the Genovese family, and the Genovese would love to see our families destroy each other. Antonio's face reddened. You dare accuse— I accuse no one. Yet, Dante's gaze swept the crowd, but I will find who killed Isabella. And when I do, there won't be a hole deep enough for them to hide. Vincent reappeared at Dante's elbow. Sir, we need to leave. Now. The urgency in his voice sent adrenaline spiking through me. Dante must have heard it too, because he nodded once, then guided me away from Antonio and his sons. What's wrong? I whispered as we walked quickly toward the waiting car. Luca Martinelli left 5 minutes ago. Made a phone call first. Vincent opened the door, practically shoving me inside. We think he was reporting your presence here. The car door slammed. Dante slid in beside me, Vincent in front with the driver. We pulled away from the cemetery with controlled speed, fast enough to escape, slow enough not to attract attention. Reporting to who? I asked, my heart hammering. That's what we need to find out. Dante pulled out his phone, made a call. Sal, I need surveillance on Luca Martinelli, everything. Phone records, bank accounts, who he's meeting with. I want to know what he had for breakfast. He paused, listening. Yes. Now. He ended the call and turned to me. His expression was unreadable, but something in his eyes had softened. Are you all right? Someone just called me a whore at a funeral, and apparently there are people watching me who want me dead, so not really. No, a ghost of a smile crossed his face. Antonio is old-fashioned. In his world, any woman with a powerful man is either property or a whore. Don't take it personally. Hard not to when he said it to my face. He's grieving, and scared. He knows I didn't kill Isabella, which means someone else did. Someone with the power to execute his daughter and frame me for it. Dante's hand found mine, his fingers lacing through mine with surprising gentleness. That terrifies him, because if they can kill Isabella, they can kill anyone. The words hung heavy in the air. We drove in silence back to the mansion. Security had been doubled. I counted at least 6 guards at the gate, more patrolling the grounds. Whatever was happening, Dante was preparing for war. Inside, he led me to his study. Vincent disappeared to coordinate whatever surveillance operation they were running on Luca Martinelli. Drink? Dante asked, moving to the bar cart. Yes, please. He poured 2 glasses of whiskey, handed me one. I took a sip and coughed. It burned going down, but the warmth was welcome. You did well today, he said, settling into the leather chair behind his desk, staying calm, observing, pointing out Martinelli. I just saw someone acting suspicious. That's more than most people notice. You have good instincts, Sophia. He studied me over the rim of his glass, better than I expected. Should I be flattered or insulted? Both. His smile was genuine this time, reaching his eyes. You're full of surprises, Miss Chen. I'm beginning to think I underestimated you. The compliment warmed me more than the whiskey. I shouldn't care what he thought, shouldn't want his approval, but I did. What happens now? I asked. Now we wait. See what the surveillance on Martinelli reveals. See who else makes a move. He set down his glass. And you stay close to me. No leaving the grounds without escorts. No phone calls except to your mother, and those I'll monitor. You don't trust me. I'm starting to. But trust in my world is earned slowly and lost instantly. His eyes held mine. You've proven you can observe, can think strategically, but I need to know you won't break when things get worse. Worse than people wanting to kill me? Much worse. He stood, moved around the desk. The Morettis are planning revenge. The Genovese family is making moves. And whoever killed Isabella is still out there, waiting for the right moment to finish what they started. He stopped in front of me, close enough that I had to tilt my head back to maintain eye contact. I need to know you'll stand with me, Sophia. That when the shooting starts, you won't run. And if I do run, then you'll die alone instead of protected. His hand came up to cup my face, thumb brushing along my cheekbone. But I don't think you're a runner. I think you're a survivor, and survivors know when to hold their ground. The touch sent electricity through me. Wrong and right and terrifying all at once. Why do you care? I whispered. I'm just bait. Just a tool you're using. You were. His other hand came up, framing my face. But you're becoming something else, something I didn't plan for. What? He leaned down, his forehead almost touching mine. Something I want to keep. Then his mouth was on mine, hot and demanding and stealing whatever breath I had left. I should have pulled away. Should have maintained professional distance. Instead, I kissed him back. His hand slid into my hair, tilting my head for better access. The kiss deepened, turned hungry, desperate, like he'd been holding back for days, and finally let go. When we broke apart, both breathing hard, his eyes were nearly black with desire. This is a terrible idea, I managed. Probably the worst I've ever had. His thumb traced my swollen lips. But I've never been good at denying myself what I want. And you want me? More than I should. More than is safe. He stepped back, creating distance, which is why this can't happen again. Not until this is over. Not until I know you're safe. The rejection stung, even though I understood it. So what? We just pretend that didn't happen? We acknowledge it happened, and we wait. His expression was tortured, because if I take you to my bed now, while you're under my protection, while you're vulnerable and scared, I'm no better than the monsters I fight. The words hit me like cold water. He was right. Of course he was right. But it didn't make the ache in my chest any less real. A sharp knock interrupted the moment. Vincent entered, his expression grim. Sir, we have a problem. Luca Martinelli just met with someone you need to see. Dante's entire demeanor shifted. All business again. Show me. Vincent pulled out a tablet, brought up surveillance footage, a parking garage, time-stamped 30 minutes ago. Luca Martinelli stood talking to another man, their body language tense. The camera angle shifted, showing the second man's face. I gasped. It was Detective Morris. Your police detective is working with the Genovese family, Vincent said flatly. Has been for months, according to our sources. He's the one who convinced Isabella to be more public with her affair, knowing it would force your hand. The room spun. Detective Morris, the man who'd warned me about Dante, who'd offered protection, who I'd worn a wire for. He was the traitor. He set everything up, I whispered. The meeting at the restaurant where I'd see them. The investigation pointing at you. All of it. And he probably gave the kill order on Isabella when the affair didn't provoke the response he wanted. Dante's voice was ice. He needed a war. Needed the families fighting each other so the Genovese could move in and take over. But why target me? Because you're the witness, the innocent bystander who saw too much. Dante's eyes met mine. He kept you close to monitor what you knew. And when he realized I was protecting you, he had to decide, use you to get to me, or eliminate you as a liability. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. Miss Chen, this is Detective Morris. We need to talk. Privately, tonight. I have information about Dante Castellano that could save your life. Dante read over my shoulder, his expression darkening. He's making his move, trying to separate you from my protection. What do I do? You agree to meet him. Dante's smile was cold. And we end this. 3 hours later, I stood in the parking lot of an abandoned warehouse on the waterfront. The location Detective Morris had chosen. Isolated, dark, perfect for whatever he had planned. I wasn't alone, though he didn't know that. Vincent and 6 other guards were positioned around the perimeter. Dante himself waited in a car 50 yards away, watching through surveillance equipment. And I wore a wire. This time, for real. Detective Morris appeared from the shadows, looking tired and desperate. Miss Chen, thank you for coming. You said you had information. I do. He glanced around nervously. Dante Castellano is planning to kill you. Tonight. I have proof. You're lying. I kept my voice steady. You're the one who set everything up. The affair, Isabella's murder, all of it. His expression shifted. The tiredness vanished, replaced by cold calculation. So he told you. He didn't have to. I figured it out myself. I took a step back. You wanted a war between the families. Used Isabella, used me, killed anyone who got in your way. Smart girl. He pulled out a gun, casual and terrifying. Smarter than I gave you credit for. Unfortunately, that makes you even more dangerous. You're going to kill me? Here? Now, I'm going to make it look like Castellano did it. One more victim. One more reason for the Morettis to declare war. He raised the gun. Nothing personal, Miss Chen. Just business. Like Isabella? She was always going to die. Too stupid. Too indiscreet. But her death served a purpose. His finger moved to the trigger, as will yours. The shot rang out before he could fire. Detective Morris staggered, looking down at the red bloom spreading across his chest. He fell to his knees, the gun clattering from his hand. Dante stepped from the shadows, his own weapon lowered. Behind him, Vincent and the guards materialized like ghosts. You made a mistake, Detective, Dante said, approaching the dying man. You touched what was mine. Morris coughed blood. The Genovese will come for you. Let them. Dante crouched beside him. I'll send them to join you. He fired again. Morris collapsed, dead before he hit the ground. Then Dante was turning to me, pulling me against his chest, his hands running over my body, checking for injuries. Are you hurt? Did he touch you? I'm fine. My voice shook. You killed him. He was going to kill you. His arms tightened. No one touches what's mine. No one. I should have been horrified. Should have been running. Instead, I buried my face in his chest and let him hold me while Vincent and the others dealt with the body. 1 week later, I stood in Dante's study, watching the sunset over the city. The Genovese family had backed down after Morris's death. Apparently, losing their inside man at the police department had changed their calculations. The Morettis had accepted evidence that Dante hadn't killed Isabella, though the peace was fragile, and I was still here. You could leave now, Dante said from behind me. The threat is over. Your mother is comfortable. Your debt's paid. You're free. I turned to face him. What if I don't want to be free? His eyes darkened. Sophia, you said I was becoming something you wanted to keep. Did you mean it? Every word. He closed the distance between us. But this life, my world, it's dangerous. It will always be dangerous. I know. I reached up, touched his face. But I survived. I stood my ground, and I'm not running. His smile was slow, devastating. Then stay. Be mine. For real this time. On one condition. No more lies. No more using me as bait without telling me. We're partners or nothing. He pulled me close, his mouth finding mine in a kiss that promised dark things and dangerous futures. Partners, he agreed. In everything. And as the sun set over the city, painting everything in shades of gold and shadow, I realized I'd found what I'd been searching for all along. Not safety, not freedom, but someone who saw me, valued me, would burn the world down to keep me. Someone who made me matter.